to our spiritual benefactors, to all that has contributed in our meeting here this afternoon, as we gather together through this new technology, allowing us to continue our studies and learning and understanding. We ask all that are in the spiritual world, our guides, guardian angels, to assist us as we gather ourselves here, learning and putting our thoughts to all that can help us. Allow us, dear Father, to be protected, to be guided, and to send out all the love and peace throughout this planet Earth. Guide us as we begin our meeting today, dear Father. And with that in mind, we ask permission to open our meeting today. So be it.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. For the moment, I'm going to mute everyone, okay? If you want to talk, you just unmute yourself and mute yourself again. We have been living in extraordinary times, and everyone has been very curious, anxious, waiting for messages from the spirits, and there has been quite a lot of communications that people are disseminating on the internet through several ways, and WhatsApp, YouTube, Instagram, and it comes to a point that we have to actually remember the considerations and the teachings, the lessons that Allan Kardec brought to us in the Medium's book. And maybe because of our desperate need, maybe because of any other particular reason, we have not been putting too much thinking in analyzing the message and the considerations that we have. Therefore, I have decided to bring today, instead of our usual study of the Spirit book, a material that I'm going to share with you that will talk exactly about it. How can we be able to analyze properly the messages from the spirits, okay? All right. So let's see, that was a material that I prepared actually many years ago. I just revised it in 2018. And let's start with that. Philip, if you could help me in reading. We cannot hear you, Philip.
I'm unmuted. You hear me?
No, we cannot hear.
I show unmute. I'm not.
No, not yet.
Jussara, I can hear him, but it was very low.
Yeah. Tiago, would you mind then perhaps reading for us? I don't think his mic is quite good. I don't know. We cannot.
Sure.
Sorry, Philip.
Yeah, I'll go ahead this time. Mediumship. All mediumistic activities that incline towards the superficial, attending only the innocuous of curiosity or levity at the expense of goodness and the sense of dedicated service to God, deviate from the external values which form the basic purpose of mediumship. It is crucial to realize that, just as in the physical realm, there are impostors, opportunists, and mischievous spirits, there are also those in the non-physical realms who are poised to deceive the unwary.
Okay. So the lessons from the Medium's book start by telling us about the curiosity that people normally have, or some people, of course, not everyone, in terms of getting in touch with the spirits. Once you understand that there are spirits that they can communicate, some people will try to talk to them, not taking into consideration or having any knowledge of spirit life. So they basically will try to summon the presence of a spirit for very trivial purposes. And of course, when you think about, even in terms of material life, when you want serious answers, you go and ask to serious people. When you are talking about trivialities, only the trivial will be inclined to respond to your trivial questions. So the replies are going to come from the spirits. Yes, the spirits will be communicating because there are spirits of many different categories. But what is the category of the spirit that is providing you this answer? Is it a mocking spirit that you say whatever you want to hear just for the purpose of having fun with you, of thinking how much naive we are, and just because they are spirits, they are we believe them to know everything and to be able to give us any kind of answers. So here in the Medium's book, Kardec says that it's crucial for us to realize that we have different categories of spirits. We have the imposters, the opportunists, the mischievous, the ones that love a good joke, and of course we have the serious one, the enlightened ones as well. But we have to see that depending on the intention we have, we are going to attune with this category of spirits. It's very much like when I go to listen to a radio. If I like classical music, I'm going to tune in to a classical music station. If I like rock, I'm going to tune in with this kind of radio, and so forth. In terms of how we are going to attune. So it's basically the same when we are talking about getting into communication with the spirits. Okay, Tiago.
The responsibility of spiritist practitioners, both incarnates and discarnates, is very great. What is done with mediumship and how mediums are prepared for this task will either help or hinder the future progress of humanity. In the new epoch now dawning, mediumship will develop alongside the progress of terrestrial humanity, so that many phenomena thought at this time to be extraordinary will become commonplace.
So, as spiritists, we have a very big responsibility, because it is part of spiritism, the communication with spirits. And we understand these communications as being with the purpose of helping and assisting, and with the purpose of being instructive and enlightenment. So having said that, we, with the knowledge and understanding that we have between the communication between the two worlds, we should be giving the example, helping humanity in understanding the possibility of communication and what is the reason why we have those communications. So we understand as well that as much as our spirit grow spiritually speaking, the more we acquire virtues, understanding, knowledge, and leave behind all the negative traits that we still have, the more evolved our abilities, even when incarnates, are going to be. So in this time, we don't know what it is going to be in 100 years, but most probably, or 200 years, we may have more ability in terms of communicating with the beyond than we have now. We will be paying attention to phenomena that's so far we have not been paying attention. For instance, we all know, according to the mediums book, that we all are mediums. Okay, there are two categories in this description of being everyone being a medium. The one is those that come with a commitment to exercise, to apply their mediumistic possibilities in order to help their personal growth, spiritual growth, and that of humanity. For the others, we all have this ability of sensing, of having an intuition of the presence of spirits, the intuition of the messages that they give to us. So those things that now we don't pay that much attention to, a sudden thought, a sudden idea, an alert, we will be each time more paying attention to that, because it's going to be commonplace, the understanding of the spiritual realm. Today, we already see on TV, now Disney is going to, I think it's Disney or Pixar, is going to be releasing a new movie talking about, the spirits and all that. Each time more, the new generation has been embedded in this idea of spirit, of having, more lives and etc. So we have this quite this responsibility till now. Let's read another one and then we will stop for questions, okay?
Within the work of mediumship, there are two areas of activity. The material aspect. Professionally or domestically, there are certain duties to be fulfilled. Material work is an important factor for the mediumship, as to be preserved from the temptations of commercialization of mediumship, etc. The spiritual aspect, in the sense of creating and maintaining an air of fraternity within our professional and domestic lives. Of equal importance is the creation of human solidarity through attention to those in need, both incarnates and discarnates.
So here the spirits are trying to explain to us that we have two areas of activity that as spirits we may grow and evolve. Not everyone will have, like we just said, the spiritual aspect in the sense of serving through mediumship more developed, or with a commitment to serve humankind, as we mentioned before. But all of us, we have a responsibility in terms of the material aspect. Be it professionally, be it domestically, we all have duties to fulfill. We all have our tasks that are going to be helping us in growing intellectually speaking, but at the same time, especially for those who are mediums and ostensive mediums, for them not to be tempted to somehow put aside their profession, their material life, their job, and start living out of mediumship. The understanding that we have as spiritists, the knowledge that we gather from this spiritism is that our mediumship is an instrument of growth, personal growth, and growth for humanity. And we should never charge anything for that, because it doesn't belong to us. We're just the intermediary. We will talk more about it later on. So it's actually, if we could think about it, it should be the other way around. We should pay to exercise mediumship, because we are gaining so much. We are gaining, like they say here, the ability of developing more fraternal emotions. We have the ability of start fostering within ourselves more noble or nobler feelings. And so just because, and discipline and all the other requirements for us to exercise mediumship in a good way. So for those who think that, oh no, but I'm a medium and I can help everyone, but I need to leave, so I will abandon my profession just to dedicate to this, the exercise of mediumship, but I will need some money. Think twice, because this is not the recommendation. Even because as individual spirits, we learn and we grow a lot while having the practice of exercising and working in other areas of activity like it shows here. And so just to complement here, material and spiritual activities complement each other, so forming the sanctification of all duties, which brings with it elements of defense and protection, sustenance, and good equilibrium. So it's like, working the both wings of evolvement. With one, we work more the material, intellectual aspect, and with the other one is the one that it gives us the opportunity to have love, compassion, charity, fraternal emotions. Okay, if we have any questions or comments to this point. I'm rushing a little bit because there is a lot of material that I wanted to cover today. So, but don't feel intimidated by it. We will manage to go through that. So far, so good. So, okay, so you are curious about what we have next. So let's go to the next then.
Nature of communications. There is an infinite variety of spirits as to their intelligence and morality. Thus, we can comprehend the differences in their communications. Their communications must necessarily reflect the nobility or baseness of their ideas, their wisdom or ignorance, and their vices or virtues.
So, as we said before, it's very important for us to keep that in mind. It's not just because we die that immediately we receive a PhD certificate in knowledge of everything pertaining to the spiritual realm. On the contrary, most of the times we will be very ignorant as to what we are talking about in terms of a spirit life. It doesn't mean that just because I'm dying today, tomorrow I'm Santa Jussara, Saint Jussara, or something. No, I'm going to have the same emotions, the same personality traits. Of course, it will be a great opportunity for me to see things differently, from a different perspective, to grow. But it doesn't mean that all of a sudden I don't have that much knowledge, even in terms of communicating, and then I just die and my vocabulary is going to improve. All my possibilities are going to be much better. We wish, right? It's not like that. So, Thiago?
The different types of communications can be classified into four main categories. According to their predominant characteristics, they may be crude, frivolous, serious, or instructive.
So, as our aim today is to give us tools to be able to analyze this so many messages there are coming for us to use good sense and to be able to analyze all of them. This is why we are bringing this material today. And in the Medium's book, chapter 10, Kardec shows here, according to the knowledge and the understanding from the spirits, that we have 4 different kinds of communication. Okay, it is a reality that is spirits, life goes on. Yes, at least this is what we believe. It is a reality that because life goes on, we are capable of communicating. Yes, that's at least what we spiritists believe. It is a reality that just because you are now in the spiritual realm, not necessarily means that you have all the knowledge pertaining to material life and to spiritual life. Yes, that's a reality according to what we believe in spiritism. Therefore, the spirits are going to communicating according to their possibilities. And this is where we have these 4 different kinds of communication. Let's look at the first one.
Crude communications. They are those containing expressions that shock decorum. They can only come from spirits of the lowest orders. Any person with a minimum amount of sensitivity is repulsed by them, for they are trivial, ignoble, obscene, insolent, arrogant, malevolent, and even impious, depending on the character of the spirits who make them.
Okay, only here we could stop for, several minutes to study that, because we may think, may come to our mind, well, but in mediumship meetings and the spiritist centers that are very serious and have very serious mediumistic activities, we receive many times, of course, low order spirits. And why do we not see the display of this kind of communication like they are explaining here? It's the other chapter that I'm talking about. It is the discipline of the medium that will filter the will of the spirit to be aggressive, to be rude, to be impolite, and not demonstrate this kind of terminology. Although later on, if we talk to the medium, the medium will say, well, that spirit wanted to hit someone, wanted to scream, wanted to say all the bad words we may have from A to Z in our vocabulary. We just were, of course, on top of it, not to allow the spirit to communicate in this way, but just to convey the message that the spirit wanted to convey. Of course, in this case, one of rebelliousness, of hatred, things like this. So, but of course, on the beginning of the manifestations, and even today, for people who have no knowledge how to put together a mediumship meeting and how to work in a serious way with mediumship for a serious purpose that has nothing to do with trivial subjects, we will find spirits that will just manifest the way they want. And this is where we have the dangers. Of course, in this case, it's so evident. The only thing we can say, yes, there are spirits, and good gracious me, look how they communicate. But we will not learn anything from them in terms of, the message that they are bringing. Always learning from their experience, and of course, but in terms of, the message that they are bringing, because it's going to be one of, rudeness, rebelliousness, things of this nature. So evidently, when we receive communications like that, it's very easy for us to classify them as being, not instructive, not good communications. Any question?
But these kind of spirits, they need help, right? When you have like a meeting, mediums meeting, is this kind of spirits who need help.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Those are the spirits that we will immediately identify as spirits that are in need of assistance. Not necessarily very much like when we talk about here on earth, we find spirits that are very adamant in their position is not with just one conversation or just because we are going to be saying tender words in a soft voice, like a loving voice, that they are going to change their way of thinking. But it's always a start. It's always, someone showing them compassion, showing them tolerance, listening to them. So all of that will little by little grow their inner desire to perhaps change their ways, or in a short term, or it's going to take a longer term. But definitely those are the spirits that will be in need of assistance, and many times those are the spirits that we will be classifying as being the obsessors when we are talking about cases of spiritual attachment. Any more questions, or should we go to the next one? I think I intimidated everyone to ask questions, but okay, let's go. I'm not going to take a second chance. All right, let's go to the next one.
Frivolous communications. There are those from frivolous, mocking, or mischievous spirits who are more cunning than downright evil, and who give no importance to anything they say. These communications have nothing improper about them, and they please certain individuals who find satisfaction in useless conversations. Some spirits are not concerned about the truth, and they feel a malicious pleasure in deceiving those who are predisposed enough to believe them.
I just love this picture, okay? Here we have the medium all concentrated to write something, and he's playing a tic-tac-toe, right? So it's a very good representation of what those kind of frivolous message means. Nothing. It's just a game that the spirits are playing with us. And we, because we are so full of ourselves, because, there's a spirit communicating through me, and I'm a medium and this and that, we are not paying attention to the content of the communication. Many times they will not, like they say here, they will not be as rude or as ostensive as we see in other kind of, in the previous kind, the crude kind of communications. But it's still, those are the messages that we read. You squeeze, trying to get some meaning out of it, and there is nothing. Because the kind of spirits that come to communicate, they cannot not offer anything else for us. They just, are frivolous, mischievous, mocking spirits that just want to play with us. What is important about studying all this classification is that this can happen even to the most serious medium if we do not pay attention. Okay, because we are not 100% all the time. And for starter, we are very far away from being perfect, from being good. And so they may find, if we allow them, a way of breaching through us, because we are offering the opportunity and try to bring communications like this one. So it's not even to say, no, but this is the medium. Every medium may have, when you have the bad hair day, or something like, every medium has a bad day as well, okay? Several bad days, and we may not, we may have had a difficult time in concentrating, even if we are in a protective ambient, in a spiritual center, in a serious mediumship. This can happen. It is good because it will exercise our possibility of analyzing the words, analyzing the message, to put us in our right position, saying, look, it's not because you're trying to do a serious work that you are infallible. None of us are. And pay attention always. Be vigilant always. Because it can happen again. And most probably it will happen again. Because it's in our nature, you know, not to be on our best condition all the time. Questions, comments? Okay, let's go to the next one.
I have a question.
Okay, so let's go back. Oh, sorry. I wanted to go back. 2, 3. Yes.
What do you do when a spirit, say it needs help, comes ask you because you are in the spiritual center or you are gathering for a purpose? What do you do when that spirit that is not, it's like you said, that it's not the high elevated spirit?
If we are in a mediumship meeting, in a mediumship group that regularly, seriously gather every week, even if it's just for an hour, we may have a conversation with the spirit. If this is not the case, we will never engage in a conversation with the spirit. And ultimately, what they all need is the energy of love and compassion. And this we can offer through prayers, with sincere prayers, not just, saying by heart a prayer that we may know, but from the bottom of our heart, with thinking about the spirit. Please, God, hear the spirit that is in disturbed, that is suffering, that is in need of help. And I'm here pleading for the spirit to be assisted. And you continue your prayer like this. This is going to much more than words, much more than preaching. This is what actually going to change, to soften. It's like a balm. When we have physical pain and they put a balm that soothes the pain, or they give you something that soothes the pain, prayer will act in the same way for the spirit.
Thank you.
Okay. So, why is it going back now? Now let me. Okay.
Serious communications. They are serious both as to subject and form. Every communication which has a useful purpose is naturally serious. However, that does not mean that such communications are always without error, since serious spirits are not all equally enlightened. They don't know many things, and they may be mistaken about them, though in good faith. That is why it is recommended that we submit all communications to the control of reason in the strictest logic. Certain presumptuous or pseudo-scholarly spirits may attempt to impose upon us the most wrong-headed ideas and the most absurd theories.
Okay, this is a very important one for us to analyze. We may have a message, you read the message and you say, wow, this message is, it comes from a serious spirit, a serious message, has nothing to do with the crude messages that we talked before. There's nothing to do, or frivolous message, there's nothing to do with the frivolous message as well. They are serious, but seriousness does not mean knowledge. So I may have the best intention to present to you a theory that I have. But who is to say that my theory is the correct one? I believe it so. That's why I'm sharing it with you. But many times the problem here is that they don't say, listen, This is not the consensus of the highly evolved spirit. This is just my idea. And here is where it may make our task of analyzing the message very difficult. Even because there are what they call here presumptuous or pseudo-scholarly spirits that may have their own ideas. And of course, my idea is the best idea, is the right idea, and I present to you as such. And at the end, it represents the idea of a mumbling, a schizophrenic type of spirit. You know, how many schizophrenics that believe in theories of conspiracy and things like that? And I mean, they have logic when they present that to you. So again, in many cases, like they say here, the spirit has not a bad intention. Like for instance, if you come to talk to me asking for an advice, and I can tell you, you know what, I myself experienced the same thing that you are experiencing now. And my reaction, my understanding, my advice to you would be this or that helped me when I was living the same experience. But I cannot say that this is the advice of highly enlightened spirits, which has a difference. That's why we are having many communications, and I just heard one yesterday, that although they are the communication, or they are very serious in nature, if you analyze a little more, they represent, you will see that they come from spirit, basically our level, which is okay. We cannot say that, okay, just because a spirit is my level, I'm going to discard the communication of the spirit. Experience helps us. The same way that I was saying before. Look, I have the experience in this sense. I can share with you, and then you see what works for you. Okay? But we cannot attribute, and the way those messages are passed by, they go from one WhatsApp group to another, to Facebook, Instagram, etc., as if they pertain to highly evolved spirits. Highly evolved spirits have a very characteristically way of communicating, and that is they use very few words, and they are spot on. It's like, you know, they know how to go to our Achilles heel, but in a good sense, as to say, you know, and you know exactly, they know exactly what they have to say to make us think, to make us reflect about. If it is too long, with too many words, with things that represent, you know, more, you would say, okay, I think I could have written this message myself. Again, it doesn't mean that the spirit that has dictated this message is a bad spirit. It had evil intention. It came to talk to us in our level because this is their level as well. If they bring dates, I mean, dates for the spirits, evolved spirits, it means nothing. We cannot say in 20 years because, you know, something happened that may take 10 years or may take 100. We may delay our progress. We may speed up our progress. This is the beauty of free will. So we have to be very, very careful. Again, the medium had no bad intention. We are not blaming the medium that received the message. We are not blaming the spirit that received this message. It's only a matter of putting the message into their proper category. Is it a serious message? Yes. Is it instructive? This is what we're going to see next. What is instructive communication?
Instructive communications, those which are not only serious, but whose main purpose is to provide teachings given by superior spirits. Serious spirits connect themselves to those who desire to be taught and assist them. It is only through the regularity of these communications that we can appraise the moral and intellectual value of the spirits who are communicating with us, as well as the degree of trust they deserve. If we deem such communications to be instructive, we therefore suppose them to be true, for something that is not true cannot be instructive, even if transmitted in the most striking language.
Okay, here we have some things. It's not because, the vocabulary is beautiful, it's perfectly written, because here we have to remember that the medium may not have the possibility of conveying the message in the language or in the way, in the written style of the highly evolved spirit. Those are communications that are very difficult for us common mediums to bring about. I myself experience it sometimes, when I normally say I could capture the idea. I could feel the words were so much more well placed, the style, etc. But this is how I could bring it. Okay. On the other hand, we may have mediums that have this ability of bringing message with a striking language, as it says here. But again, you may squeeze, and you get nothing out of it. So here we are talking about serious, instructive, and therefore through communications. If they are instructive, they are through communications. So if we, every time we receive a message, and sometimes, it's even good for us to look at those messages, just for us to exercise our discernment in terms of, analyzing them. Well, let me analyze this message. Let's see what the Spirit is talking about here. Is it long? It has a very so vocabulary. Well, the crude we are not even going to take into consideration. It is bringing dates. For instance, the one that I heard yesterday, the Spirit identified himself as being a spirit from Earth. But all the time that he was talking about the situation that we are living now, the Spirit was saying, you were incautious, you abused the earth, you this and you that. Well, if the Spirit was talking to me face to face, I would say, stop. Because if you were from Earth, probably it's because of you that I'm reaping all these consequences, okay? Because you lived here in the past and you did all this mess, and I'm just continuing the mess that you did before, right? So the Spirit will never say it, like, accuse us of being materialistic. I mean, the idea of the Spirit is not to put us down. Is to say, listen, these are times that are inviting us to go beyond the material aspects of life and to return to our inner self and to analyze the proper values with everything that we are living. So it's going to be completely different. And the Spirit ends the communication by saying, mentor so-and-so. I said, well, Dr. Bezerra de Menezes finishes his communication saying, the humble and servile, paternal spirit, Bezerra de Menezes. He doesn't even use the doctor that he actually was while he was on earth. You see, and then in 20 years, in 150 years from now, and May 17, the coronavirus is over. Well, it's over where? Oh, when I say it was over, it was going to be over in China, and then everyone else. I mean, it makes no sense. And it's incredible how they multiply. Again, I don't see ill intention, like I said before, in many of those messages. They speak to our level, like, you know, the level of spiritual children. At this moment, we are in need of spirit that speak in order to bring about the goodness in us. Any questions or comments?
I think Orlando has a question, Jussara.
Okay.
He's muted.
Let me see, how can I go to, I don't know. Let me see if I find Orlando. Orlando, you're on mute. No, we cannot hear you, but you're not mute. No, we cannot hear you, Orlando. Maybe if you type your message on the chat. I don't even know.
He's mute.
Yeah, for me, it shows as mute for him.
It shows unmuted. I will unmute everyone. Let me see here.
Yeah, now, there you go.
Yeah, but I don't think his audio, maybe he didn't connect to the audio, I don't know. Okay.
Ju, may I?
Yes.
I have a question. Thank you so much for this. I think I heard of some of Chico Xavier's messages having dates. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. First of all, there are few messages, but that were more spread after his death, which means that not necessarily he had the intention of disseminating those messages, very much like the messages we have in the work, Obras Póstumas, posthumous work of Kardec, because Kardec used it to write everything, all his thoughts, all his doubts, all the theories. And so you die, someone go there, open your drawer, find all of that, and then publish those messages. He has messages. There are more, I mean, this 2019 were things that up to now we are not so sure. And I mean, and nothing happened, or we can say that he missed it by a month. Or maybe not. Maybe China was already dealing with the coronavirus in December 2019, and we're not saying to anyone. But it's still, Aline, there is one thing that we always have to take into consideration, the possibilities of the medium and the work of this medium. Okay, it's not that it's impossible for spirits to give us an idea of time, but it's going to be very difficult It's not something that is commonplace. And when it comes, I myself will only believe in a medium that has certain capacities. And Chico Xavier have all of them. Sometimes people ask, oh, why don't you have the communications from the spirit of the dead, the family ones that have died like Chico Xavier had? Because even in the medium's book, it says, you know, this is a mediumistic ability that is very rare. It requires a lot of dedication, requires a lot of sacrifice, requires a lot of spiritual acquisition that the majority of the mediums do not have. So is it impossible? It's not impossible. But we will not say, for instance, there is one message that the spirits through Chico Xavier says something, well, in the next 50 years, it will be the turning point for civilization on Earth. Okay, they are giving a window where we have, but they will not say on April 1st, it's going to happen that. Actually, last week, Divaldo said something that it is not a date. He said on, I think it was August 15 or September 15, a spirit came and communicated a certain message. But it's not saying, you know, in that date is going to happen something. So it is not impossible. With precise dates, it can be much more difficult. And I myself would only trust if it comes from the category of spirit like Chico Xavier and above. Because then I would trust the source. Okay? So, Thiago.
What kinds of preparations do a medium need to make to keep away ignorant spirits and to use this gift for good?
Okay, let's see. And this, remember, when we are talking about mediums, we are talking about all of us. Okay, because we all communicate with spirits, at least in a thought level. Oops, sorry. So can you...
seriousness regarding the purpose and use of mediumship. So there are the categories: perseverance, devotion, discipline, goodwill and benevolence, discretion, discernment, and disinterestedness. Oh, and modesty, humility, and continuous vigilance.
Should be the first one. So those are the things that require from us. They are required from us in order for us to guarantee that when we are going to receive a communication, which is not, we are not talking about here about providing assistance in mediumship meetings through spirits, to spirits. There are, you know, needy spirits, suffering spirits, or obsessors. We are talking about communications from spirits, written or through verbal, transmediumship, psychophony, psychography, automatic writing, whatever name you want to call it, when they are bringing a message, okay? So humility, because we will understand that the message is not ours, and we are just the messenger. Continuous vigilance in order to not, in terms of ourselves, in order to eliminate each time more the personality traits we may have that we will stay in the way of us having good communication. Perseverance, because as we said before, we are going to fail. I mean, there will be days that we will not be completely prepared to receive communication that can be more instructive, enlightened ones. Devotion, it requires us, you know, everything that we want to do well, we have to give ourselves to that. It requires, you know, many times choices. I have you know, this commitment that I, with my free will, decided to attend. So if there is something else in the way that can prevent me from doing that, I will leave this something else behind. Discipline, because it requires us, you know, week after week, arriving on time, dedicating ourselves. Goodwill and benevolence, because without good emotions, good intentions, we will not be able to respond to the needs of spirits. Discretion, because we will hear spirits that will come and communicate situations that are not with the intent of being disseminated or mocked after. Discernment and disinterested, I even put it separately here. Can you read, please?
Discernment, acquired through study and attention to good spirits' advice, will help the medium to examine various situations and offer wise advice for a sound solution. And it will help in the critical analysis of spirit communications that should be a regular practice of all mediums and participants in a mediumistic session.
I always remember the story of Divaldo Pereira Franco, that today has almost 300 books published, received by several spirits, when Joana de Angelis came to him and told him to throw away the first 10 years of communication he had received. So 10 years of psychography that he had, she said, put it in the garbage. And he tried to negotiate with us, but even this one, like, you know, like a child when you say you have to donate your toy to charity. Oh, but this little car from my childhood, no, you know. And then when he tells us, so interesting, because he said, oh, but this one is so beautiful. And she would tell him, in 10 years time, you will look at this message and you will feel ashamed, because from now on we are going to write so much more deep messages that this one that you consider to be okay today, in 10 years time, will bring you embarrassment. So, and here we are, you know, receiving messages, communication. Oh, look how cute. Oh, how nice. Look at the spirit said. Oh, how enlightened. Or it makes no sense. That's why they say discernment. Analyze. Are there good spirits sending message? A lot. And many times they don't need any intermediary because they are talking straight to us. We are the ones that are not listening, not paying attention.
Jussara, you have a message, a question from Orlando on the chat.
Yeah. Can you read for me, please?
Sure. From Orlando to everyone. Jussara, is the spirit world to some extent responsible for the virus situation? Do the perispirit transferring disease to the physical body as part of the trial we have to go through proves that the spirit world lacks compassion, mercy, and justice?
Okay, I love this question, Orlando, because also refers to the message that I heard yesterday, when the spirits kind of try to blame on God the virus, that God is sending the virus to put us in track. The viruses are our fault. We are the ones that are messing up with the earth. with ecology, with all the life systems. And we are bringing about with our greed, with our behaviors, with our lack of, hygiene, with our, with all the many things wrong that we do, we are the ones that have provoked that. Even now, I'm not going to get into politics, but in many countries, there are many countries yet that, the whole world is going through that, and there are still countries saying, no, nothing is going to happen with me. So let's keep living life the way we always live life. Or, no, this is happening so far away in China and never going to get here. It gets here, people still don't care. People still are living their life the same way. And then we are going to blame on God? We're going to blame on the spirits, on the lack of compassion. The poor spirits, I think, have never had so much work to do to help us in this process as they are having now. Maybe not even in the wars, the big wars, because even if they were world wars, a lot of people dying. Here we are talking about world war, a world virus war that is happening all over the world, that is getting into each and every family, each and every home. And the poor spirits are, they are the ones that should be applauded at 7 p.m., at 8 p.m., at 9 p.m., at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 24/7, because they are working 24/7 to help us and to try to prevent this mess that we have caused to ourselves to have even worse consequences than it should have. But what are we doing? We still think, oh no, but I can go and stroll a little bit, around the block. It's not going to be a problem. A problem to whom? So no, Orlando, it's everything. Unfortunately, we have to be blamed for it. Human beings, for not being cautious enough, from messing up with the ecosystem. And I'm not a scientist. I know that Julio is here, that he can have a better take in terms of talking about all that. But it's still, this spread is very much the consequence of our own behaviors or lack of good behaviors. Let's read the last one, please, here.
Disinterestedness. Disinterestedness refers to a lack of material interest and is the virtue by which mediums give for free what they receive for free. The disinterested mediums exercise their faculty voluntarily for the sole purpose of helping others and seek no material reward for her or his work.
So we mentioned that already, knowing that we are just a messenger, that and this is a way to help us and to assist us in our personal spiritual growth. There should be no reason for us to think about any kind of personal gain in this sense. Let's read this a little quick because we are...
Our spiritual friends and benefactors inform us that mediumship without study and the application of the teachings of Jesus is a phenomenon without love. Mediumship without the clarifications and education offered by Spiritism is an unenlightened phenomenon. Mediumship with Spiritism, but without the teachings of Jesus, is an incomplete realization. Mediumship with both the teachings of Jesus and Spiritism is a guarantee or spiritual victory and the valorization of spiritual talents. And the last one, therefore, the forming of the trilogy comprised of the gospel, Spiritism, and mediumship is essential.
So again, we cannot just have parts of it. For mediumship actually to work in the way that we want it to work, we have to have the knowledge, the understanding that we gather from Spiritism. We have to have, of course, the possibility of, the being a medium, and above all, we have to have the basis of the teachings of Jesus. And finally,
in the field of mediumship, do not forget that a duty correctly fulfilled is the compass that will propel you the right direction, to the right direction. Emmanuel.
Okay. So let me stop sharing. How do I stop? Okay. So I hope this helped. And next time you get a message, use it to exercise your ABCs on understanding a message. And again, we are not saying that the messages that are not from the most, enlightened spirits, that they are not good. As long as you read it, knowing and understanding the source of it, and not disseminate it as being, the ultimate word about a certain subject. Okay?
I have a practical question. How do we respond as spiritists to claims from others that there's this and this message, that tonight everybody needs to put a glass of water because you're going to receive a vaccine against COVID? And that comes from well-intentioned friends, from people who only really, really mean very, very well. And they look at us and they go, isn't that true? You're a spiritist, right? So how do we lovingly respond to something like that?
Well, it's kind of tricky. It's hard because we cannot be the ones that will kill hope in others. Okay? And as long as it's not too much, nonsense, like, put a band-aid on the place that you will have receive a spiritual shot. I mean, that's too much nonsense. But a glass of water, I mean, when we do the gospel at home or the prayer at home, I mean, one of the things they say is you can put a glass of water, a jar of water, ask the spirits to, to put energy. We know that the spirits can work to the water. We know that, as Jesus said, where one or more, two or more is united in my name, I will be there as well. We just talked about, how much the spirits are overall working us nonstop, helping us nonstop. So, of course, if I put a glass of water now and pray and ask the spirits to help me somehow, they will. So I mean, I'm not going to be the one that is going to be disseminating this kind of message, because for it to work, it doesn't need to involve the whole world. But I mean, if people ask me that, I will say, whether you do it collectively, or you do that, sincerely placing your heart, praying to God and putting a glass of water and asking the spirits to bless the water so that somehow it can help you, it will help you. So, but let's, for the sake of being the ones that know, the ones that understand, let's be very careful not to kill the hopes of others. Even, this message that I'm bringing to you today, I'm bringing it to you because I know that you can hear those kind of things. But if someone comes with that message to me that I think that they do not have the structure to hear the truth, I will just say, yeah, it's an interesting message. So feel proud of yourself if I explained everything, okay? It's because I think you know and you are more than ready to understand the truth. If I just say, well, yeah, interesting, that's bad. But I will not kill the dreams of others.
Along the same lines, one of the things that I did hear in the message that I received was that we should all, once a day, connect to the spirits to be instruments of the energy that they're sending to Earth. Would that be something that we always do when we pray, or is that something that has any fundament?
Yeah, that falls into the general category that we were talking about. Of course, that if every time, and I mean, I don't need you and all the world to be connecting at the same time as me to make a current or something like this. You know, every time I elevate my thoughts, I pray, I think about the situation that we are all living in the world, the sadness, the loss of job, people going through hunger, all of that. How can I not sympathize and have a fraternal feeling in relation to all that, and at least try to contribute with my prayers to soothe the pains of everyone? Because in one way or the other, everyone is going through suffering right now. Some people more than others, but we all are going through that. And so every time, and I would say that we should do that more than once a day. Every time that you have a break or that you stop to breathe a little bit, send an intentional thought of calm, of, you know, a balsamic thought of energy in the world for everyone to calm down, for everyone to bring hope to their hearts. Because like, you know, Mary used to say, this also shall pass. It's not going, it has not been easy. It's not going to be easy, the whole process of recovery, the whole aftermath of all that. But if we keep on, you know, maintaining our, and the thing is, sometimes it's more important for us to maintain our inner balance than to think of that in terms of the world. If everyone would do that, then we would be okay. Right? So, but yes, anytime we are capable of doing that, we should, and we should inspire others. And I think it's very laudable, you know, when people, a lot of people have group prayers every day at 6 p.m., at 10 p.m., at 1 p.m. I mean, I think we have to applaud those initiatives. Everything that comes from with a good intention, it should be done. Okay. Okay, so we went a little over our time today, but the subject I thought was very important. And also we had something different for today. So next week we go back to the Spirit's book. Okay.
Thank you, Jussara.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ju.
Ines?
Thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Ines?
Yes, I'm here.
My darling, can you do the final prayer for us?
Yes, yes. As we come to the end of our meeting, we thank the good spirits, our guardian angels, that are here for this beautiful meeting to guide us, protect us, keep us united in prayer and safe. God bless us all. So be it.
Okay, so sorry if I didn't give you too much opportunity to talk today or to do questions, but if you want, next week when we start, if you have more questions, bring the questions and then we do the questions and then we can continue with the spirit work, the spirit's book, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Be safe,
Everyone.
everybody.
Thank you for
Bye,
being
guys.
Okay,
Miss you
bye.
all.
Hey.
Big hug.